Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Just Jan Show. I'm your host Jan, and in today's episode we are having a weekend roundup. Now what I mean by a weekend roundup is a roundup of all of what's been happening in television and in sports, mainly sports. Why I say television is because I'm going to mention something that happened majorly in wrestling, which I could actually start off with. So I got home from being out on Saturday morning / afternoon, and I turned on the telly to watch SmackDown and WWE SmackDown. For anyone who isn't aware of that, basically WWE have two shows each week: Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown. So, because obviously it's on very late in the the evening. Like early hours of the next day, really. So for us, it's easier to just watch it on the Saturday rather than staying up late and watching it on the Friday going into Saturday. So yeah, I turned it on, and my brother said, "Oh, have you watched SmackDown yet?" I was like, "No." He was like, "Oh my God, something major happens. Like I've just got to show you this right now." I was like, "Okay." And The Rock has returned. Dwayne The Rock Johnson has returned to wrestling. I don't know if it's going to be for any permanent length of time. I don't think so. I think it's literally going to be a case of he's there for just a one-off appearance and then he might return later down the line. But the one time he does return, my God, the crowd, like I think it was in Denver, the crowd was just literally going mental for him, which was great to see because, you know, a lot of fans, you know, haven't seen The Rock, you know, outside of wrestling since he was last in wrestling, which was like 4 years ago, I think, maybe even longer than that. So for him to come back and then to actually be physical in the ring as well. I know obviously it was only, if you haven't seen it, I'll just explain it briefly. He was having a confrontation with Austin Theory, and then basically, yeah, he did a spine buster into the people's elbow, and yeah, it was amazing to see. And he also had a backstage confrontation with John Cena, which was quite cool to witness as well. But yeah, that's the television side of this weekend roundup. The main part of the weekend roundup, as always, will be football, but there will be some other sports in there as well. So, you know, skip past the bits that you don't want to listen to, and then, you know, we'll get to the bits that might interest you more than just football. So let's go on to football whilst we're there. So yeah, Arsenal, my team, they won 1-0 against Everton. It was a very comfortable game. Like I thought it was going to be a bit of because we've got a terrible record at Goodison Park. Obviously, we broke the hoodoo from Goodison Park. I think we last won there in 2017. So it'd been like 5-6 years since we had last won there. So it was definitely a needed win, just to break that hoodoo, and we did that with a 1-0 win, Trossard goal. We did have a goal disallowed for Martinelli, which I guess is a whole nother video with this VAR situation. We're getting a lot of different VAR decisions. You know, we get very lucky in the Man United game where we won 3-1 against Manchester United with a Garnacho offside that went in our favour, and then we have a Martinelli goal which is disallowed because Nketiah was deemed offside. So I think with this VAR thing, we're just going to have to ride our luck throughout the whole season. You know, some decisions are going to go our way, some decisions won't go our way. But yeah, a 1-0 win. It keeps us still unbeaten in the season so far. That's 4 wins and 1 draw. The 1 draw being the Fulham game, which I was actually at with my uncle. 2-2 draw. And then, yeah, we've got some big fixtures coming up. We've got PSV tomorrow. This is Tuesday, date of recording. Yeah, so tomorrow we've got PSV in the Champions League. Return to the Champions League. The first time we've been in the Champions League since 2017. So I think that's 6 years. So we're talking about a long time coming. And it's great because, you know, the club has done so well over the last couple of seasons, you know, getting more points, being more competitive in the league, and now we get to show off our team within the Champions League. You know, look at the likes of Declan Rice, Saka. They haven't actually ever played in the Champions League. I think the likes of Martinelli probably, but I don't think he's played in the Champions League either. Ramsdale. There's so many of them players that haven't played in the Champions League purely because Arsenal have just never been in the top four until last year, where obviously we finished second. So, yeah, it's a big opportunity for Arsenal this season in the Champions League. So hopefully we can start on winning ways. And then on Sunday we have Tottenham, who have also started the league very well. I think they're on the exact same amount of points that we are. They won 2-1, I think, against Sheffield United. They left it late. I think there was about 13 or 18 minutes. No, I think it was 13 minutes. I think 18 minutes was the Aston Villa game. That's right. 13 minutes of added time, and I think they scored 2 goals within like 2 or 3 minutes of each other. So, we're going to have a lot of games now in the space of a season where it's going to be, 10 plus minutes added on. So we're going to be in the hundreds of minutes each game, which is obviously based off the new rules of the old, stopping the watch or like not stopping the watch, but like adding it on each time the ball goes out, substitution, goal. Player goes down holding their head even though they've got no head injury. Obviously that's not always the case, but we are seeing a lot more, and Arsenal were doing it a load against Everton, and so were Everton against Arsenal. It like completely stops the game, because if you hold your head, the referee has to stop the game because of a potential head injury. So a little bit of, the old dark arts going on there. But yeah, other games that took place, obviously we spoke about the Tottenham game. Liverpool beat Wolves 3-1. That was where I was out when I said earlier I was out during the day. On Saturday, I went round to Sam's to watch Sam, who obviously we did a couple of episodes with on this channel. I was around Sam's watching the Liverpool game. Obviously, Liverpool went 1-0 down, I think, very early on. I think about 8 minutes in. I might be wrong with that. Do correct me, please. But yeah, they went 1-0 down. And to be honest, in the first half, Wolves could have easily been about 3-0 up. They were all over Liverpool. Liverpool just couldn't get anything going. And in the second half, it's like the script reversed, and Liverpool could have easily scored more than the 3 that they got, the game ending 3-1. Salah with a couple of assists. I think Liverpool are looking like the Liverpool of like when they first were took over by Klopp. They were very exciting to watch. They were you just never knew what type of scoreline it was going to be. And I think that's going to be the case this year whilst they're sorting out that midfield. And obviously defensively, they've got a couple of either injuries or, players not in exactly the best reign of form. It'll be interesting to see how Liverpool do this season. I think they're on the same amount of points as us as well. Everyone's kind of on the same level playing field, apart from City, obviously. And that lends to me talking about City. Manchester City beating West Ham 3-1. Now, up until that point, West Ham were doing really well this season. They were unbeaten up until that point. Another 3-1. There's been a lot of 3-1s this weekend. West Ham actually went 1-0 up into half time, and then Man City scored 1 minute into the second half and then scored another 2. Obviously, Haaland was on the score sheet because it's Erling Haaland. West Ham suffered their first loss. But if you're going to suffer a loss, let it be to the champions, the treble winners, the team that look completely unstoppable. 15 out of 15 points so far in this season. I think a lot of people are getting sort of carried away with how the results are going at the moment, but obviously for some teams there are warning signs already that you can't be falling behind this soon. I know there's only 15 points that have been played so far, but it is sort of worrying that the likes of the next team I'm going to talk about, Manchester United, are already behind everyone else. They've only won 2 games. They've lost 3. One of them games that they did win was obviously the Wolves game, which was quite controversial. We had the Onana incident, which I think VAR have actually looked back on, because they're doing this thing now where they retrospectively look at VAR decisions, which I think is just unnecessary because it's happened now. Why speak about something, why speak about something that's already happened, already affected the game? It's not like, we're sorry, we will hold our hands up, we're going to now award Wolves a penalty in their next game. It's not going to happen, is it? So I think just leave it in the past. Mistakes, you can learn from them, but you don't need to keep highlighting them and making the team have to be, look, do you remember when you didn't get this penalty? I don't think that's... obviously it shows us, the fans, how they got to that decision, but I don't think it puts, it might put a couple of things into perspective, but I don't think it really is warranted. I think it just makes for good conversation, doesn't it? This VAR thing, controversy creates cash, as Eric Bischoff says, and I think that's key for this. It's always a talking point. Oh, that VAR decision, if that went our way, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, it didn't go your way, so you just got to leave it there and just move on to the next game. Down the line, like I said earlier with the Arsenal VAR decisions, you'll get one go your way, you won't get one go your way. It's just going to end up like that. I know that's not the way everyone wants it to go, but that's the way it's going. But yeah, Man United played at home and they lost 3-1 to Brighton. And yeah, I can't see. I can't go through, because I'm not a Man United fan. Obviously, I'm an Arsenal fan, but there seems to be a lot of issues surrounding Manchester United at the moment, and to go into it in detail myself would be doing it a disjustice, because I'm not a Man United fan. But off and on the pitch, it seems that they've got some problems that need ironing out, and fast as well. If it's the Glazers, if it's Antony, if it's Sancho, if it's Erik ten Hag, if it's performances on the pitch, if it's Harry Maguire, look, the list goes on and on. I think I could make a video, just about Manchester United and how they've been doing in the last 5 matches. Lost to Arsenal, lost to Spurs, and the way they lost to Spurs as well was very. It just wasn't a good performance at all. I actually had a bet on that game, and I was like, both teams to score. I thought it was going to be really cagey, but it wasn't. And then I think that's it with the results. But yeah, Brighton are looking like a very, very solid team. I think they're going to be hard to beat this season. I think they're going to be like up there, like in the top 6, I'd say, because they're just so consistent. I haven't wrote down this team here, but it's worth mentioning, obviously, Chelsea drawing against Bournemouth, and a lot of people have been saying, they've spent $1 billion on transfers, how have they not got a striker? I think you've got to take it into account of, yes, they've bought players, but they've not bought well. And what I mean by that is, an Arsenal will sign Odegaard for whatever it was, 25, 35 million, and look at him now. It's such a good signing, and it's paid off. Look at Tottenham signing James Maddison, player of the month for August, and he has hit the ground running at Spurs. But then you get players that come into a team and they don't actually make it any better. Or they haven't been given enough time to make it better. So I can't just jump down like you've spent $1 billion and you've not done anything with it, because it's too early to say. And they've got a lot of injuries as well. Like I'm an avid viewer of the Bundesliga, and that Christopher Nkunku, hopefully I pronounced that right. He looks really exciting as a player. French player, can play like the number 9 role, but also can play the 10. Kind of be a false 9 if he needs to be. He looks clinical. But then you go like from this, and then a little bit lesser quality in Nicholas Jackson, and then he's missing chances and stuff, and you kind of think to yourself in the back of your mind, would Nkunku have converted some of these chances? Because Chelsea are not. They're not they're not in a position where they're not creating any chances. They are creating lots of chances. They're just not finishing them. They're a very hard team to predict what their scorelines are going to be like. Because and I'm not just giving all the praise to Chelsea. Bournemouth as well had multiple opportunities to score. If Dominic Solanke had his shooting boots on that game, Bournemouth could have won the game. It was a weird game. It was just before the Arsenal game, I believe, against Everton on Sunday, and yeah, it's a weird 0-0 result. But Chelsea, alongside Man United, both need to start just accumulating some points and getting up there, because otherwise they're going to be in the mud. And hopefully, because I am an Arsenal fan, obviously I want to see my team do well, but I don't wish ill on other teams. I want it to be as competitive as possible. I don't want just Man City and then one other team challenging for the title. I want as many teams challenge for it. I want like the best. When we play Chelsea, I want to play Chelsea at their best, because then when you do beat them, you're like, right, I beat the best version of them. I didn't beat, this all injuries everywhere, everyone's over the place, is Pochettino the right man, blah, blah, blah. I want to face them when they're at their best, because then when you do beat them, it's even better. That's why when you beat City, there's no excuse at all for Man City. You just beat them because you were the better team on the night. Whereas other teams, sometimes you can go, oh yeah, we didn't have this player as centre-back, or we didn't have this player. You know, you have to go with the team you've got and the form that you're in, and I understand that. But when a team's in really good form and then you beat them, so like Tottenham are in really good form at the moment. If we beat them on Sunday, I am going to be over the moon with that victory, even more so than probably beating them away from home last season, because Tottenham were in the mud last season for good chunks of the season. You know, they've started anew. Kane's left the team. He's gone to Bayern Munich. It seems the team's got, the shackles are off. They're playing really good football. So I'm actually more excited to play them when they're in their best form. Then, like, say for example, I don't know, in training this week, James Maddison was to pull up and have an injury. I would be annoyed by that, because I'd be like, oh, I want to play these teams at their best. Obviously, I want to win, and obviously you've got more chance of winning if the team's out of form or they've got players missing. But I find a victory even more satisfying when you're playing. Both players are playing each other. Both teams, are playing each other at their highest level. You know, they're in the best form, and their players are on fire. But enough of talking about football. Let's move on to another sport that's close to my heart, and that is darts. Now, I didn't even know it was on, so I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I watched it from round 1 to the final. But we had the semi-finals on of Michael van Gerwen versus Luke Humphries, and I think van Gerwen hit a 9 dart. We turned on like way into the semi-final, so I'm not going to sit here like I watched the semi-final and the final all the way through, because I didn't. I had other things going on. But yeah, Van Gerwen won his semi-final match, and then he faced Nathan Aspinall in the final and won that too, and he won that very comfortably. I think he won 11-4, which is very comfortable for a final. So yeah, he is the World Series of Darts Finals champion. It took place in Amsterdam, and like I said earlier, he hit a 9 darter, so it's nice to see Van Gerwen in really good reign of form. He is still second in the PDC Order of Merit, which is like their ranking system. It's based off prize money over the last 18 months, I think it is. So yeah, I think Van Gerwen has got a good chance of getting himself back to that world number 1 spot, because he's not too far behind Michael Smith. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see come towards the end of the year, which we are fast approaching. We're already in September now. It'd be good to see closer to the end of the year how close he is to Michael Smith, or he might have even surpassed Michael Smith as world's number 1. In other sports, as you can see with the top I'm wearing, it's Formula 1, Mercedes. Carlos Sainz won his 2nd Grand Prix of his career, winning the Singapore Grand Prix. And what was quite poetic about Sainz winning the Grand Prix was his first win was the first race I ever watched of Formula 1 like properly, because it's always been on in the background in my house, but it's never been something that I've just gone, all right, I'm going to sit down and watch the qualifying, then I'm going to watch the race the next day. But when it was Silverstone last year, that was the first race I properly watched the qualifying. I properly watched the race. I was actually on holiday at the time, and I was watching it in a bar, and I just fell in love with it, and I've been watching it ever since then. And Carlos Sainz won that race, and what's even more poetic is that George Russell got taken out of the Silverstone race. I think he got collided with Pierre Gasly. And then in this race, the weekend just gone, he literally in the final lap, he was 3rd place. In the final lap, he crashed and he was out of the race completely. And Lewis Hamilton took the 3rd spot, and Lando Norris was in 2nd, which is a great result for Lando. And then Carlos Sainz won. But the way George Russell went from, I think he changed his tyres to a fresh set of medium tyres, and he was just flying. He went past Charles Leclerc, he was keeping Hamilton behind him. Even though Hamilton was going a bit faster than George Russell towards the end, he was flying, and he could have caught Lando at times, but Lando did really well to manage his tyres and keep Russell, at an arm's length, sort of like in boxing. But yeah, it was a good race. I think the next race is this weekend coming, which is not good timing because of obviously when the race is going to take place, and also when the Arsenal game is going to be on. But I'm hoping that the Grand Prix rate, like the race in Japan, I think it's in Japan, is going to be later on in the day rather than at 2 o'clock or round about then, because then it will coincide with the football, which is not good for me because I want to watch both, hopefully. I could tape it maybe and just not look at my phone at all and hopefully avoid the result. But yeah, that's kind of it for the sports this weekend. Obviously, I've probably missed out some sports. The Rugby World Cup's been on. I've heard England are doing well, but I don't really watch rugby, so maybe someone in the comment section could let me know how we're getting on and who's looking like the most likely team to win it so far. I think there's been a couple of upsets as well. I was actually at a darts competition last night. We called it the Dave Allen Cup because for those of you who don't know, I sadly lost my father, my dad, in 2021 November. So my darts team and the other darts team, both Springhouse darts teams, we came together and we did a tournament in my dad's honour. We called it the Dave Allen Cup. So we did have a cup called the Springhouse Cup, but we rebranded it to the Dave Allen Cup, which was very thoughtful of both my team and the other Springhouse team. And yeah, we've got a trophy that I'm just looking at over there. I could bring it onto camera. Yeah, why don't I bring it onto camera? So let me get it out of its little bubble wrap. So there we go. So you got this wonderful trophy. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but yeah, it says Dave Allen Cup winner. And then what I'm going to do is, it looks like Eric Bristow, sort of. I'm going to get hopefully a piece of metal on the back here and get everyone's name engraved who's won the trophy, because we've done it for 2 years now. So I've got to get last year's winner engraved on there and this year's winner engraved on there. So yeah, it's a nice touch. It was a good tournament, went well yesterday. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. I like organising tournaments for darts, it's really good. So we had 13 players play and yeah, it was a good night. So Monday darts will be returning for the Winter League in a couple of weeks' time, so looking forward to playing in that. I didn't go very far at all in the tournament yesterday. I did play in it. I lost 2-1 in my game, so I was out. But I did do a good bit of chalking and chalking the scores down. So I was kind of sort of like semi the referee for a couple of the matches, if you want to give it a name. But yeah, chalking is just writing down what the players have scored in darts, if no one's familiar with that term. But yeah, I thought I'd do an episode that's, face to face, rather than me behind a video game, because obviously I've been doing the Resident Evil series, the finale of which will be out hopefully tomorrow, Wednesday. But if not, it'll be out Sunday this week. It's only literally the end of the playthrough, so it's not as long of an episode. I think the episode I uploaded yesterday was like 58 or 59 minutes long. This one is considerably less. And then I've got to think about future videos I want to do with you guys, and also future video gaming episodes, which I want to do. I know a lot of the video gaming episodes have been like zombie or like, quite horror related. It's just because they're like the Resident Evil games, especially, they're just easy to do playthroughs for, and I can talk whilst playing. Whereas some games, obviously, you have to go through all the logistics of, is there any copyright issues? Because, say for example, if I wanted to play GTA 5, I'd love to play GTA 5 and show off some missions to you guys, but then there could be some copyright issues if I'm riding in the car and I'm playing a song on, one of the radio stations. So I don't want to run into anything like that. And it's the same with like the Star Wars Battlefront episode I did for you guys. I really enjoyed doing that, but then that got copyrighted. But it was allowed to be used for the purpose of using it on YouTube, which is great. But I don't want to run into anything that says basically you have to take the video down, because obviously then I've wasted like an hour of my time recording an episode which then will never air or will air but then has to be pulled off. So yeah, I'll have a think about it for the next video game, and then obviously you guys will be made aware of the game when I've uploaded it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode, the weekend roundup I'm calling it. So I hope everyone's well, enjoying this slightly, well, for one of a better word, shitter weather. It's windy, very windy today. It's going to be like in the 30s, 40s. So yeah, hope everyone takes care, enjoys this much cooler weather rather than the 31-degree heat that we were subject to a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I hope everyone's doing well and take care. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.